In this video, I will provide a quick explanation of price ceilings and price floors in economics. So let's consider the following graph that shows a supply curve and a demand curve for some good. Now, in this graph, I've labeled the equilibrium price as P star. So this is the price that this good is selling at, and the way this price is determined is simply through supply and demand. So it's where the supply curve and the demand curve intersect each other. So in a free market, producers and consumers will naturally find this equilibrium price just through supply and demand. And I've also labeled the equilibrium quantity as Q star. So at this price point, this is the quantity that is sold in a free market. Now, one thing that governments occasionally try to do is impose something known as a price floor. Now, a price floor is a minimum price for some good set by the government with the intention of ensuring a fair income for the producer of that good. Now, in order for a price floor to be effective, or what economists call binding, it must be set above the equilibrium price. Now, one real-life example of a price floor is that governments set a price floor on wheat prices. So the idea is that to ensure that farmers get a fair income, there is a price floor set on wheat prices. So that means that consumers cannot buy wheat for below a certain price. Now, the intentions of a price floor are good, but notice what actually happens when a price floor is set. The place where the price floor intersects the demand curve is out here, which is less than the equilibrium quantity. So the equilibrium quantity is normally right here in a free market, but when prices rise, the quantity demanded by consumers decreases, so it moves to the left. And that makes sense because as prices increase, fewer consumers want to buy that good. But notice where the price floor intersects the supply curve. It's all the way out here. So when the price was increased, the quantity supplied to the right, so it increased. And now we'll notice that there's a big difference between the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded, and this is known as a surplus. Because the quantity produced by producers right here is all the way out here, and the quantity demanded is all the way down here, so it's lower. So the quantity produced is greater than the quantity demanded. So there's a surplus of this good that is being produced that does not have the demand to match that production. Now, the real problem this causes is something known as deadweight loss. So this area right here, this triangle is referred to as deadweight loss. And this represents all of the transactions that could have occurred in a free market, but that no longer occur because the price is set too high. So because the price is set so high, the quantity demanded by the consumers is stuck right here. So it used to be all the way out here, but now it got reduced, so the quantity demanded is lower. So all of these transactions that could have occurred at these different price points no longer occur because fewer consumers are willing to pay for this high price point. So we refer to that as deadweight loss to the overall economy. So those transactions are no longer taking place. So that is a bad thing. Now, the opposite of a price floor is a price ceiling. This is a maximum price set by the government for some good or service. And in order for it to be effective, or as economists call it, binding, it must be set below the equilibrium price. So notice the price ceiling is all the way down here. It's below the equilibrium price that would have occurred in a free market. Now, a real-world example of a price ceiling is rent control. So occasionally a government might try to step in and say, okay, we're setting a max price that landlords can charge for rent. You cannot charge more than this. This is a price ceiling. Now, the intention is good, so governments are trying to make housing more affordable, but look what actually happens when a price ceiling is set like this. We'll notice that on the demand curve, the price ceiling intersects the demand curve right here. So normally, the equilibrium quantity demanded is right here, but once we set a price ceiling, it increases, so it moves to the right, so the demand is all the way out here. And that should make sense because when the price for some good drops, there's more demand for it. But notice where the price ceiling intersects the supply curve. That's all the way out here. So the quantity supplied has gone down. And this difference between the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded is known as a shortage. And all that means is that there's a lot of demand for that good, but there's not much supply. So in the case of rent prices, when prices are lowered, there's huge demand for lower rent prices, but there is less incentive to actually supply that housing by landlords or by property investment companies, so the supply is lower. So there's a shortage. There's less supply than there is demand. And in this case, again, this triangle, this area on the plot represents deadweight loss. And this simply represents all of the transactions that would have occurred in a free market, but that they're no longer occurring. And this time it's because the supply is not going past this point, because landlords are not incentivized to actually supply that housing beyond that point. So these transactions that could have occurred no longer occur. So in the case of both price floors and price ceilings, there is reduced economic efficiency. And as we saw in both cases, fewer transactions actually occur in the marketplace because the free market has not been allowed to find the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity naturally. So that was just a quick introduction to price floors and price ceilings. I also have additional videos that I'll link to on how to actually calculate shortages and surpluses and how to calculate deadweight loss when these price controls are actually imposed.